Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the continuation of SWR's really very good Dvořák Symphony cycle. Now, the first batch of recordings, the first three, were conducted by Karl Mark Chichon. It's all with the same orchestra, the Deutsche Radio Philharmonie Saarbrücken Kaiserslautern. Did I get that right? Let's see. Yes, I think I did. Wait a minute. Where is it? Oh, look at this. This is marvelous. They don't even call it that anymore. It's just become the Deutsche Radio Philharmonie. Hey! Well, from now on, it seems, the recordings are going to be conducted by Pietari Inkinen, the Finnish conductor, and he's very good. He may be even a little better than Chichon was. I mean, they're both quite fine. They really are. And he seems to have maybe just a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more accent, Inkinen does. Well, good for him. And we have here volume 4 in this series. I don't know what order. I mean, the order that these things come in has nothing to do with the order the symphonies were written or anything like that. But this is Symphony number 2, Opus 4, along with a couple of rarities. The dramatic overture, which is the overture to Alfred, Dvořák's first opera, Alfred. Yeah. And then the overture to Armida, Dvořák's last opera. So that's kind of interesting. All of the music here is interesting. It's all very, very well done. Now, the second symphony is a huge advance over the first symphony. I like the first symphony. There was a comment that it's like sort of a big, mishmash and horrible and awful. The tunes are lousy and had nothing good to say about it. Well, that was a bit much. That was an exaggeration, I think. Really, it was. It's a lovely work. It's an absolutely lovely work with plenty of things that sound like Dvořák. However, the second sounds entirely like Dvořák. It's a pastoral symphony. And the only thing that you might say that's wrong with it, because Dvořák actually revised this one. He kept it. See, the first symphony he sent off somewhere and disappeared. And so he never heard it. He never had a chance to do anything with it to fix it up for an actual performance. This he did. And you can tell. You can really tell. Every movement has an introduction. The introductions are thematically related. The piece has internal coherence, both within the movements and between them, therefore. The second movement, as I pointed out in my book on Dvořák, shows, I think, of quite strong influence of Berlioz, because Dvořák was in the viola section when he performed Berlioz's Romeo and Juliet. And the balcony scene, the love scene, Scène d'amour in Berlioz, from Romeo and Juliet, sounds an awful bit inspirationally like the lovely nocturnal slow movement here. It's really quite beautiful. The first movement, without exposition repeat, I might add here, which is perfectly fine with me, is the only movement that suffers a little bit because the thematic material is almost entirely gentle. Ya da 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 dum bum 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 ba ya da 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 ya da 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 bum bum. It's lovely, but it's relaxed. And so what moves in this music actually is what you might call the transitional material, the motion music. And it has to have energy. And this is one of the most vibrant and energetic performances of the first movement I can remember hearing. I mean, it's not just a function of speed. It's a function of accent and dynamic range. And it really had no dead spots in this performance. I was very, very impressed. The slow movement was quite beautiful. I mean, really, really beautiful. The scherzo is one of Dvořák's great movements. I mean, that's where we hear the master. It's a very highly developmental movement. I mean, it's long. It's in 12 minutes and a bit, which is basically, more or less. I mean, it's longer than the finale. It's a serious, meaty, beefy, juicy movement that sounds like nobody else could have written it. It has gorgeous tunes. It has one of Dvořák's first train tunes. The da 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 ba dum ba da 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 dum ba dum bum bum ba. With the strings underneath going chugga da chugga da chugga da chugga da chugga da chugga da. Oh, it's just marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. And even the trio has a tune that sounds like, I've been working on the railroad. It's almost exactly that, actually. It's ya da 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 dum da 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 da. Yeah, oh, it's really great stuff. So that's beautifully done. And the finale has its own fund of wonderful melodies, including a second subject, which is accompanied by ponticello violins. It gives it that beautiful kind of wet tremolo sound. It's lovely. Absolutely lovely. There's nothing wrong with this symphony. It should be played. It should be played regularly. As long as that first movement has sufficient dynamism, the whole piece just holds together beautifully. Now, the overture to Alfred, also called the dramatic overture, is Dvořák in bad Wagner mode. It really is not a great piece of music, and it's interesting to hear where Dvořák was in his development then, because this symphony sounds so uniquely Dvořáky and Czechy, and the dramatic overture is just dripping with Wagnitude. Specifically Tannhäuser. That was the thing everybody was hooked on back then in the 1860s, the late 1860s. Late Wagner hadn't come out yet, and people weren't quite going there. But, it's enjoyable, but it's slightly generic. It really is. And so I'm glad to have it. It's good to hear. It's Opus, Opus Posthumous B16A. It's very early work. And really, it's 14 minutes here, 14 minutes and 43 seconds of Sturm und Drang, and it's fine. It's fine. It just doesn't sound much like Dvořák. The overture to Armida, on the other hand, is only 6 minutes and 51 seconds, and it's extremely well designed for the opera that follows. You have chorales representing the Crusaders. You have some spooky, witchy music now and again, and it's melodic and beautiful. And the orchestration is so much clearer than in the dramatic overture. It's obviously a prelude to something else, and a very attractive one at that. And it's very enjoyable. So the whole disc, because I keep putting it up and picking it down and putting it down and picking it up, or I'm getting myself confused. But it really is a lovely, lovely performance. A fine disc with some interesting tidbits that are well worth hearing. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me, and give this a shot, especially for the Second Symphony. It may surprise you. It really will. Take care.